Hello everyone, I'm Frank and welcome to Frank Puzzles, and this is today's very hard puzzle. And it's a sequel to the previous day's puzzle, which was, Lost Village. If you want to try that, um, this sort of takes some stuff from, or takes some similar rule sets from the previous puzzle. So if you want to try that one first, which I would recommend, um, I'm going to put a link up in the corner, which will basically be a link to yesterday's hard puzzle, which you can try that first, and then maybe if you can figure that one out, try this one afterwards, because this one's supposed to be tougher than the previous day's puzzle. And today's very hard puzzle is called Lost Town by Proxy 14 again. And here are the rules. Well, here's a story first, actually. After the successful completion of your previous mission, you've been promoted to a detective sergeant. Your next case is in a big town, roughly an hour away from the capital. Numerous people have been reported missing in a span of a few days in the area. Your mission is to find out what happened in this town. And here are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply, which means fill every row, column, and box with the digits 1 through 9 without repeats. We also have crop key, where digits separated by a white dot must be consecutive, and digits separated by a black dot must be in a 1 to 2 ratio. So, for example, if this was, say, a 6, this would have to be a 5 or a 7 to make sure that these are consecutive. And if this were 2, this would have to be 1 or 4 to make sure that these two digits maintain a 1 to 2 ratio. And that's how crop key dots work. We also have, and this rule set is the same as yesterday's rule set, ambiguous cages. There are 4 types of cages in this puzzle, all of which appear at least once. Digits in a cage, regardless of its type, cannot repeat. So you can't have repeats in cages at all. Every cage is denoted by a letter. Alphabetically consecutive cages cannot be of the same type. So therefore, A and B cannot be the same type. B and C cannot be the same type because those are alphabetically consecutive, right? But A and C could actually be the same type because they are not alphabetically consecutive. And the different types of cages are a killer cage, where digits in a killer cage sum to the value given in the top left corner. So if this were a killer cage, all 4 of these digits would add up to 19. Then we have suspect cages, where the sum of the digits in a suspect cage must be 1 away from the value given in the top left corner. So if this A were a suspect cage, it would have to add up to 18 or 20. Then we also have framed cages, where the sum of the digits in a frame cage must be 2 away from the value given in the top left corner. And it's exactly 1 and it's exactly 2 for the suspect and the frame cages. So if this were a frame cage, it would have to add up to 17 or 21. And finally, we have innocent cages, where the sum of the digits in an innocent cage must be at least 10 away from the value given in the top left corner. So if this were an innocent cage, it would have to be at most 9. So it would be 9 or less, or it would have to be 29 or more for this to be an innocent cage. And those are all the different types of cages that you can have. And it's exactly the same as it was in yesterday's puzzle. We also have victims. For every killer cage in this puzzle, there must be at least 1 innocent cage on the grid, the victim. So if we had, say, like 5 killer cages in this puzzle, you would have to have 5 innocent cages also in this puzzle. And that's the kind of it's basically a new rule set for the victim specifically. Then we have Fog Plus, where the grid is covered by fog. The tracker on the top left corner is used to track which cage belongs to which type. Fill in that tracker by using the digits 1 through 4. 1 for suspect, 2 for framed, 3 for killer, and 4 for innocent cages. Correctly identifying cages in the tracker will gradually uncover the fog. This does not necessarily mean every single digit in the tracker will uncover some of the fog. So, okay, so basically getting a tracker correct will uncover the fog in the grid. So this is kind of a variant on the fog of war, except that instead of digits in the grid clearing out areas of fog of war, it's digits in the tracker which are correctly put clear out fog of war in the grid. And remember, if you correctly identify them, 1 is for suspect, 2 is for framed. Suspect is their sum must add up to 1 plus, or 1 away from the sum given in the top left corner. The number given in the top left corner. 2 for framed, and it has to be 2, exactly 2 away from the sum of the digits in the cage must sum to 2 away from the digit number in the top left corner. 3 for killer, if in the killer cage all the digits add up to exactly the number in the top left corner. And 4 for innocent cages, where if it's innocent, the digits must sum to a number which is 10 or more away from the digit, the number in the top left corner. Okay. Those are all the rules. If you want to play along, there's going to be a link in the description. And now, I'm going to get started. Let's go. Okay. So, we know... What do we know? We know, again, you cannot have repeats in cages. And alphabetically consecutive cages cannot be of the same type. So that's quite different from what we had previously. Actually, I think I prefer this because it's hard to keep track of everything, essentially. In the previous puzzle, it was much harder to keep track of. Well, what do these values add up to? This can never be 9. Okay, so this is if it's 10, if it's 9 away. Sorry, if it's 10 away, it would have to be -1, which is obviously not going to be possible as a sum, or 19, which is also not possible to be a sum for 2 digits. So this C cannot be an innocent. It's either a suspect, a framed, or a killer. What I used was killer was red, suspect is orange, and framed was... I'm going to make framed blue, so that makes it a little easier to distinguish. Yellow was a little hard from orange, and then innocent is green. So this is... this is so I can visually glance at something and be able to understand what it is, essentially. So red is killer, orange is framed. No, orange is suspect, blue is framed, green is innocent. So 9 this 2-digit number can never be 19 or -1, so it's not innocent. That means the sum must be 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11. We're not sure. However, the 12 and the 19 could actually be innocent because the four cell cage adding up to 19 with the 19 in the top left corner could add up to 29 or 30. The three cell cage, which has 12, could add up to... Oh, but what happens if one of these is innocent? So say this was 29. What could these add up to? Well, B and C cannot be the same one. So it could be framed and suspect at most, which would be a difference, right? So if this is 29, 29 plus 12 plus 9. 29 plus 9 is 38, plus 12 is 50. So that doesn't work because you only have a difference of 3 for the remaining cells, right? Because neither of these could be innocent if this is innocent. So the only difference you can have is 2 and 1, because B and C have to be different cells, and one could be suspect and one could be framed. So A cannot be a innocent either. It's 1, 2, or 3. So this is also... Actually, let's not color it until we actually get it. So A cannot be 29. Can B be innocent, which would be 22? 22 plus 9 plus 19. 22 plus 9 is 31, plus 19 is 50. But these can, if this is, so if B is innocent in 22 at least, that means this box adds up to, quote unquote, 50, which is 5 away from 45, which you can only change by dropping 2 twice. So that would be, because that you can only have the cages be at most 2 away from each other then. So that means you cannot have an innocent in B either. So it's 1, 2, or 3 also there. What does this add up to in total then? 19 plus 12 plus 9 adds up to 3140. So we have a difference there of 5 also. So it has to be 2 framed and 1 suspect. Because that's the only way you add up to 45. Because you need, none of them can be innocent. And since none of them can be innocent, that means they all have to be killer framed or suspect. But we have to get 5, a difference of 5 somehow. Which means we have to have 2 framed and 1 suspect, so that we can get a difference of 5. I hope that makes sense. So therefore, none of them are killers, because if you had a killer, then the most change you could have would be 4 for the sum, which is not allowed because we need 5. And it has to be 2 framed and 1 suspect to add up to 5. And again, remember, consecutive digits cannot be the same. So the framed one the suspect one has to be the middle one, which means in the suspect is 1. So the suspect is 1. The 2 is framed, so this is 2 and 2. We have D and E. So A is a suspect. Sorry, it's framed, so it must be 21. So A is framed, is 21. C is framed and is 22. 12, B is a suspect. So this is 11. This is 21. And this is 13. Okay. E has 19 in the corner. And it could be 1 through 6. So it's either it cannot be killer, it cannot be suspect, it could be framed, or it could be innocent. So it's either framed or innocent. 18 cannot be killer. It can't be framed, so it can't be 2 away. But it could be... What could it be? Cannot be killer, cannot be framed. It could be suspect or innocent. Because 2 digits can never add up to 18. 2 digits could add up to 17. So it's either 17 or 8 or less. Interesting. But if it were 8 or less, say it was innocent. This is 8 or less. This is at most... Well, this can't be 1. Right? Because if that were 1, it would have to be consecutive with 2, but also in a 1 to 2 ratio with 2. So this can never be 1. This could be 2. So this is 19 at most. This would be 18 at most. Sorry, 8 at most if this is innocent. So 19 at most plus 8. This is specifically 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8, but again, this can't be 1 because it would be consecutive with 2 and 2. That would not be allowed. If this is 8 and this is 19, though, that's 27. So these 4 digits would equal 45 minus 27. 45 minus 27, which would be 18. So this would be 18, and this still could be 1 and 2 here. So I guess this would be 3, 4, 5, 6. You could have 1, 7 here, and then 2, 8, 9 here, but then that would be 2. Interesting. Okay. So that's not possible. If this is innocent, D can no longer be innocent and is a suspect. Actually, yeah, so it can't be framed. Actually, it can't be framed no matter what, because C is framed. So it cannot be 21. It cannot be 20. Can't be just a suspect, because that's a difference of 20. So it has to be innocent here. So this is innocent, and this must be framed. Oh, other way around. This cannot be... Okay, this could be suspect. But the problem is, even if this is suspect, so if the 18 is sorry, innocent. Too many representations. If D is innocent, that means E must be a suspect. No, framed. Must be framed. But the problem with that is if D is innocent, it's at most 8. This is at most 19. So this has to be at least 18 here, right? Which would force us to be 1, 2 to add up to 21. This would be then have to be 3, 4, 5, and 6. But if this is 8 at most, it can only be 1, 7 here. And this would have to be 2, 8, 9, but then this would have to be 2 at the same time, which is not allowed by normal Sudoku rules. So D cannot be an innocent cage. It must be a suspect. And E could be anything, right? So D is suspect, so therefore it's 17, which makes this 8 and 9. So the rest of this cannot be 8 and 9. The remaining digits must add up to what? Well, they have to be 1 through 7. Hmm. What do we know from that? Well, obviously it cannot be 1, 2, 3 here. What is, so these 4 add up to 21. This is at most, okay, what digits can this be is the question, right? So this we know is a suspect. Can this be 2? Well, 5, 6, and 7 add up to 20, so no. So this can't be 2 either. Can it be 3? That means this would have to add up to 18. So that could work with 5, 6, and 7 if this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This cannot be 1 then. This can't be 1. If it's 3, oh, it has to be consecutive with the others. So 5, 6, 7 doesn't work because 5, 6, and 7, none of those are consecutive with 3. So 3 doesn't work. That means this can't be 2. So this can't be 6 either. If it's 4 here, these must add up to 17. But it would have to be specifically 4, 6, and 7. So that doesn't work here. So this cannot be 4 either. Which means this can't be 3. This can't be 4. This can't be 6. This is 6 and 8. So this has to be 3 or 4 here. If it's 6, that means these 3 add up to 15 because it's 20. Remember, it's 2 away and it has to go up. So 6 minus 6 minus 21 minus 6 is 15. But the only way you can add up to 15 without a 6, 8, or 9, there is no way. The most you would have is 4, 5, and 7, which would be 16. Or you could have, oh, you would have 3, 5, and 7. So you could have that. But you can't have 3, 5, and 7 because the 6 would have to be in a 1 to 2 ratio with a 3. So this cannot contain a 3 there in that case. So it would be 3, 5, 7, and then that's it. But this can't be 3 because then, so this has to be 8. So this is 8, which makes this a 7. So none of these can be 7. This must be a 4 here, so this can't be 4. That means this is 21. So it's 8 and 7 here, which forces this to be add up to 6 without a 4. So it's 1 and 5. So this is 1 and 5. This cannot be 1 and 5. It's 2, 3, 4, 6. So 6 cannot be here because these two are consecutive. Therefore, this cannot be 3 because the 3 has to be one of these two to be with 2 and 4. This is 1 and 5. This adds up to 13. And without a 7, an 8, or 5. It cannot be 9. It has to be 3 and 6. So this is 3 and 6. And this is 2 and 9 to add up to 11. Okay. This cannot be 2, 3, 4, or 6. So it's 1, 5, or it's could be 7, 8, and 9. Okay, F cannot be. What can it be? It's not killer because 3 digits can never add up to 25. It's not suspect or framed because those require it to go down to 24 or 23, and both of those require an 8, and we don't have an 8 here. So this has to be innocent. This is innocent. Since this is innocent, that means it's 4, which means this cannot be 4. This has to be framed, which makes this then a 1-5 pair because we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. This cannot be 1 or 5 because of the 1-5, 1-5 pair in the row. So this has to be specifically, and it's consecutive with 2, 4, or 6. It has to be 3 or 7 here. Therefore, this is a framed. We do have an innocent, so it's 15 or less for 3 digits. G cannot be innocent. It could be killer, it could be a suspect, or it could be framed. Either way, there has to be 1, 2, and 3 in this box. The rest of row 3 cannot be 1, 5, 2, and 9 because of the 1, 5, 2, 9 pairs there. So it's 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. This can't be 7 here. This is in a 1 to 2 ratio with this cell. But this cell is 17 at most because, again, it cannot be innocent because it's next to an innocent in F. So it has to be, it could be killer, it could be framed, or suspect. So that's 17 at most. So this would be 1 through 7. Obviously, this can't be 5 or 7 in a 1 to 2 ratio. This can't be 1 here specifically. The rest of the box must be 4 through 9. Therefore, what is H? H also has to be innocent, right? Because if it's not innocent, what could it be? Well, it can't be 4, 5, and 6 because this is 17 at most. So 2 out of 4, 5, 6, and 7 have to be there. So you could potentially have, you can't have 4, 5 because that would make this 1, 2, 3, 6. It would have to be 5, 6 at least, with 5, 6, and 8 being a possibility. But that's 19. So that you can never have a suspect, a framed, or a killer in H. So this has to be innocent, which forces that to be 24. Therefore, this is 7, 8, and 9. So this cannot be 7 here. This can't be 7, 8, or 9. So this is 4, 5, or 6. I cannot be innocent. So I has to be 1, 2, or 3. So this is innocent. H is innocent because so I cannot be innocent. What can it be? It can be framed at most, and it does have to be framed. So this is 4 and 1. So I is a 2. G then has to be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Right, because I is framed. G has to be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So because of that, so this is either, if this is 2, this has to be 4, which means this can't be 8. 3 or 6 goes to 3 or 6. This can't be 4. G is, again, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, which adds up to 17. So G is framed also. J is 21. It cannot be framed. But it could potentially be innocent. I don't think it can, actually. If you try to make J innocent, the problem is, what's the least could it be? 3, 4, and 6, which is 13, which is less than 10 away from 21. And if you add 10 to 21, you get 31, which 3 digits, unique digits, can never add up to. So J cannot be innocent. J can't be framed. It's either a killer or it's a suspect. And I think it's our first killer here, actually. Because you cannot have 9 here, so the most you can have is 6, 7, and 8. You can't have a 5 here, so it can't be 5, 7, and 8. Therefore, it's only 6, 7, or 8, adding up to anything that's 1 or less away from 21. So this has to be a killer. This then is 6, 7, 8, which eliminates 6, 7, and 8 in the rest of the column. Therefore, this is a 3, 4, 3, 4 pair. 3 can be next to 6, or 4 can be next to 2. And 3 and 4 are consecutive with 2, 3, and 5. But if this is 2, this would have to be 3, which would force this to be 4, which means it's a 1 to 2 ratio with 2. And therefore, you'd have a contradiction. So this can never be 2. Therefore, this is 3 or 5, which forces this to be a 4. Which makes this a 3. Oh, that's weird. I thought, okay. So it's not just cages that correctly identifying. Anyways, okay. So this is 3, this is 6. This is 3 or 5. So this cannot be 6 here. So J is a killer. This is 6, 7, and 8. This is 3 and 6. We have a K and an L. Um, well, K and L add together would be 25. K cannot be killer. But if K was innocent, it would have to be 5 or less for 3 unique digits, which is not possible, or 25 and more, which is not possible for 3 unique digits. So K cannot be innocent. It's either a suspect or framed, because it cannot be a killer because it's adjacent to J. This is a killer. K is either 13, 14. It adds up to 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17. Um. Hmm. Hmm. Say L was a killer. This would have to be digits 1 through 4, which would mean this is 4. This would have to be 5. This could be 17 at most. Okay. Well, okay. Say L is a suspect, a framed, or a killer. That means it could be add up to at most 12, which is 2 plus 10, which would never have an 8 or a 9 in it. That would mean K would have to have an 8 or a 9 because both of these cannot be 8 and 9 because that would eliminate all possibilities for this cell here. And in addition, this has to be consecutive with this. So if this was... I guess that's possible. I don't think this can ever be killer, though. If this is killer... if L is a killer, that means this is 1 through 4, adding up to 10. This would have to be a 5. This would be, at minimum, 6, 7, and 8. So this cannot be, which would be 21, which is not 1, 2 away, or 10 or more away. And you can't get to 10 or more with K again. So L cannot be a killer. So 1, 2, and 4 does not work. Sorry, 1, 2, and 4 are the possibilities. 3 is not, it cannot be killer. Can it be a suspect? If it's suspect, it adds up to 11 because it can't add up to 9, 4 digits. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, and 5. This could be a 4 here. So this would be at minimum, again, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, sorry. This would be 1, 2, 3, 5. It could be 6 here. That's what we wanted. This would then be 4, 7, and 8. Which doesn't give us enough, unfortunately. Right? 4, 7, and 8 adds up to 19, which is, again, is not 1 or 2 exactly away, and it's not 10 or more away. So it cannot be a suspect either. If we tried a framed for L, that would mean it's 12. It could be 1, 2, 4, 5 here, and then 6 here. So then this could be 3, 7, 8 minimum. But that doesn't work either, right? Because that's 3, 7, 8 is 18, which is still not 1 or 2 away from 15. It's 3 away from 15. So you can never have 2 either. You can't have it be framed. So this has to be an innocent cage. So this is innocent, which means it adds up to 20 or more. We're not sure which. M cannot be innocent. So it must be a killer, a suspect, or framed. That means it's either 0, 1, or 2 away. It can't be... we already have a 4 here. And it has to be 1 or 2. And it cannot be 2 and 3. It has to specifically be 1 and 2, and therefore be a killer. So this is a killer. This is 1 and 2. N, so M is a killer. N could be a killer. Actually, no, it can't be because it's consecutive with a killer, so that doesn't work. So it cannot be 7. It cannot be 3 and 6. It can't be more than 10 away from 10 with 2 digits, right? Because then it would be 0 or 20, and 2 digits can never add up to those values or the extensions past those. So it has to be 1 or 2 here. Well, if it's 2, it's 5 or 9 here. Oh, but we have a 1, 2, 1, 2 pair in column 2, which eliminates 1 and 2 in the rest of the column. Therefore, this can't be 1. This has to be 5, which makes that 1, which makes that 5, which makes that 1. This can no longer be 5, so it's either 3 and 9. This can't be 3 and 6 adding up to a suspect of 9, but it could be 3 and 8 adding up to a suspect of 9. So we don't know about that. So this is at least 20. This can't be 1, so it must be a 2, which makes that a 1. The remaining digits here are 6, 7, 8, and 9 with 5, but this can't be 6. 3 has to be one of these 3 cells. This can't be a 3. So one of these is a 3. This can't be 1. This can't be 7 or 8 here. So we have a 5, 6, 9 triplet in box 1, which eliminates 5, 6, and 9 from the rest of the box. Therefore, this can't be 9. This must be 8. This can't be 5, 6, or 8. So this must be 7, which means these can't be 7. This means this is 3 and 8, which forces this to be a suspect because it's 1 away from 10. Therefore, this must be 1. Okay, we're not sure about. This can't be 7. Since these can't be 7, we have an 8, 9, 8, 9 pair in row 3 and box 2, which eliminates 8 and 9 the rest of the row or the box. This can't be 9. This has to be then 3, 5, or 6. This can't be 8 or 9. It must be 7. Okay. The rest of column 1 is 1, 2, and 3. The rest of column 2 is 4, 7, 9. This can't be 1 because of this one. Q cannot be innocent because if it's innocent, it's 4 or less without a 1, which is not possible, right? Because it require 4 or less would have to be 1, 2, or 1, 3, and we already have a 1 there. If it's 24, obviously 2 digits can never add up to 24. So Q is 1, 2, or 3. O and P we're not sure about. One of them potentially could be innocent if they're 24. Unlikely, though, actually. If you have 24 plus 14 plus 14. Okay, so none of them could be innocent. Right? 14, 14. If you tried to add 10 to any of the 3-digit, 3-cell cage, that would be 24. Right? So 24 plus 14 plus 14 is 24 plus 28, which is 52. And you can only change by at most 2 in another direction. So none of them can be innocent. O cannot be a suspect. It could be framed or killer. So let's add up all these values. 14 plus 14 plus 14 is 42. Plus 1 is 43. So we need 2 more changes. But it could be... Hold on. I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to pause for a little bit. And that was spam. Apologies for that. Let's just continue with the puzzle. So, where were we? I don't even remember. Oh yeah, this has to change by 2 up. Hmm. Can you have a framed in this situation? I don't. Okay, yeah, you could have a framed with 2 killers, right? The framed goes up by 2 with 2 killers. That's fine. Or you could have 2 suspect and 1 killer. Um, you could potentially have things decreasing potentially. So you could have, okay. So what are the possibilities to gain 2 overall? You could actually subtract 1, gain 1, and then gain 2. That's possible. You can never subtract 2 though, because then you would have to add 2 and then add 2 again, which is not because then you would have consecutive digits being the same type of cage. So that doesn't work. You cannot get a framed down. Can you get anytime you get a killer down, or not a killer, a suspect down, you could get. So if you had a suspect down, you could have a suspect up and then a framed up, right? But if you had suspect down and a suspect up to counter it, then O and Q would both have to be suspect, but then O can never be a suspect. So that does not work. You cannot have a suspect down and then a suspect up and then a framed up to get the extra 2 that we need. So that does not work. So you can never have anything going down. So you could have 2 suspects up and then a killer. But again, you have the same problem in that O and Q would have to be the suspects, and then O and N would both be suspects and they're consecutive. So that doesn't work. So then you have to have 1 framed and 2 killers to go up. So P has to be framed, and then O and Q have to be killers. Okay. So P is framed. And O and Q are killers. Which means this is 14. You do not have a 5. So it cannot be 5, 9. It has to be 6 and 8 here. Oh, wait. These are not innocent. I don't know how I got innocent there. These are killers. Killers! So this is 6 and 8. Not 5 and 7. 6 and 8. This adds up to 14. This adds up to 16. You could have 2, 3, and 9 for the 14. That is possible. You have R and S. S, we know exactly what it is. It's 5, 6, and 9. So therefore, it must be a suspect. Because it adds up to 20. And 20 is 1 away from 21. So S has to be a suspect, is 1. R is 3 with 5 or 6. And it cannot be a suspect, which would be 1 away. It has to be framed. So it must be 3 and 5. Because it can't be, it has a 3, and it cannot be, it could be 5, 3, 5, or 3, 6. And it can't be 3, 6 because that would make it a suspect, which S is. So it has to be framed. Okay. We have T and U. We still haven't figured out what this box K6 is, but Okay. These add up combined to 25. What is the actual total? 4, 7, and 9 is 20. 26. So then one has to be killer, and one has to be a suspect. So one is 1, one is 3. Or, hmm, one is killer and one suspect. If that were the case, then T would be killer and U would be suspect. But you could also have a framed there too, right? You could have a framed go up by two, and then a suspect go down by 1. Either way, I think U has to be the suspect. So this is 2 or 3. And then you have U going down by 1 in that case, right? Because you need a change of 1 up to get to 26. Hmm. These digits cannot be 1, 5, 6, or 8, so it's 2, 3, 4, 7, 9. Oh, that's interesting. Hmm. This can never be 9 on these consecutives because that would mean these would have what the other one would have to be 8, and that would eliminate all possibilities for that cell. So it can never be 9. Again, so these add up to 26 in actual value, and the numbers add up to 25. So you could have, again, a frame going up 2 and then a suspect going down 1, or a suspect going up 1 and a killer going down 0. Those are the only possibilities because innocent is too big of a swing. Either way, there is a suspect and it has to be you. So you is a suspect. We have 4 killers right now and 3 innocents. So we need at least another innocent. This cannot be 5, therefore this is 6, which means this can't be 6. This has to have an 8 here. Can it ever add up to 18 is the question. It has to have an 8 and it has to have a 6. Right? Because 6 and 8 cannot be anywhere else in the row. So this is at least 6 and 8. Therefore, it's 14 at least. The least this could be is 2, which would be 16. The most this could be is 6, 8, and 9, which is 23. So it cannot be innocent. So W cannot be innocent. W cannot be innocent. So it's 1, 2, or 3. But it can also not be exactly correct because 4, 6, and 8 doesn't work. Actually, in fact, it actually can. So cannot be innocent, cannot be a killer because 4, 6, and 8 is ruled out. And none of the suspects works because it can't be 3, 6, 8 or 5, 6, 8, which would add up to 19 and 17. So it has to be 2, 6, 8 and has to be a framed because it has to be 2 away from 18. It cannot be 6, 6, 8, obviously, which would be 20, but so this can't be 2. That means it's the 3, 5, 3, 5 pair, which forces this to be 9 because 3 and 5 are eliminated from the rest of the row. That makes this a 5. This can't be 5 here. The rest of the digits in row 1 are 4, 7, and 9. V cannot be suspect or framed, and it can't be innocent, because if it were innocent, it would have to add up to -1 or 19 for 2 digits, which is not allowed. So it has to be a killer. So V is a killer, which means it must add up to 9 exactly. So it's either 2, 7, 3, 6, or 4, 5, which is consecutive with 1 through 7. X cannot be a... We have how many killers now? We have 5 killers, so we need at least 2 more innocent victims. This 10 cannot be a killer because it cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it were a framed at most, it would have to be at least 1, 2, 3, 6, or 1, 2, 4, 5. Either way, this could not be 2, and you could not have 3 here. So 3 can never be in this, so it would have to be 1, 2, 4, 5. But the problem is then that would eliminate both other possibilities for these 2 cells. So then they would both have to be 3, which is not allowed. Therefore, X has to be innocent because it cannot be framed, suspect, or killer. X is innocent. So it's at least 20. Z has to be innocent because it has to be at least... It's at minimum 4 and 7, which is 11, which is not 1, 2, or exact amounts. So it has to be greater than that. It has to be 7, 9. Z is innocent. Therefore, this is a 4 here. So this cannot be 4 here. This is a 7, 9 pair. We're missing a Y here. I'm not sure why. I guess we got to get T or K right. This cannot be 4 or 5 here. Okay, so we have 2, 7, and 3, 6 as possibilities. Well, where is the 1? Okay, if this is 2, 7, that makes this 3. So you cannot have a 3 in the rest of the column because either this is 2, 7, which makes that 3, which means 3 can't be in the column, or this is 3, 6, which means 3 can't be in the column. Therefore, this cannot be 3. This is 5, which makes that a 3. This can't be 3 then because of this 3. This can't be 3 here. What is consecutive with 2 and 3? 1, 2, 4, and 5, 6, 7 still works for 6 or 7. We need a 1 in one of these 2 cells. This 4 cell cage is at least 20. This is 16. So 1 has to be one of these 2 cells here. This can never be 4 because this cage, U has to be a suspect. It's either 12 or 14. And if this is 4, this is at most 9. So this can never be 4. If it's 12, can it ever be 7? Yes. If it's 12, it could be 1, 2, 9. So this always has a 4 here. So if it's 12, it's 1, 2, 9 or 2, 3, 7. If it's 14, it has to be 2, 3, 9. So either way, the 2 has to be in U. So it cannot be here. If this is a killer, it's 12 exactly, which means this has to be 1, 4, and 7, because that's the minimum. If it's a framed, that means it's 14. And it could be 1, 4, 9 or 3, 4, 7 here. Huh. Okay. Let's... I guess we should try to solve some of these then. Let's see. K is either a suspect or it's framed. But we don't know which. P is framed, so it adds up to 16. 1 cannot be, well, okay, 1 can't be there anyways. You could have 2, 5, 9 adding up to 16. That's it for 2s. 2, 5, 9. 3 doesn't work because you need to have the other 2 add up to 11. No, 16. Sorry, 13. So 3 doesn't work. I guess 3, 4, not, and actually 3, 4, 9 does work. So it could be 2, 5, 9, 3, 4, 9. If you have 4, you could have 4, 5, 7 also works. Adding up to 16. And then 5 doesn't work because if 5 is the minimum. 5, 6, 7, it adds up to 18, not 16. So those are the possibilities. Huh. So if you have 2, 5, 9, this becomes 4, 6, 7. It can't be 4, 6, 7. It's 3, 4, 7. Okay, I'm not sure if this helps much. We've identified all the 16s though. L again is 20 or more. This is 2, 3, and 7, which could be consecutive with 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8. This cannot be 6. If this were 6, this would have to be 7, and that would eliminate both possibilities for the 9 cage here. Could be 8 and 7. This can't be 4. Huh. So it can't be 2 and 3 here either, right? So if this is 3 and this is 2, if this is a 2-3 pair, which it can only be because for the 3, because the 3 can't be with the 4, then that would eliminate both possibilities here. So this can never be 3. We have then a 2-7 pair. No. We have a 2-3-7 triplet in row 6, which eliminates 2, 3, and 7 in the rest of the row. So this can't be 2. This is 1 and 2, or 8, 7. This cannot be 2 and 7. This has to be 3 and 6. which means this can't be 3 or 6. This can't be 6. Therefore, this is 2 or 4. Well, anyways, either way, 2, 3, and 7 are eliminated from the rest of row 6, which means this can't be 7. This has to be 9. So this is either 1, 2, 9 or 2, 3, 9, either way. This has to be 4, 7. This can't be 9 or 7, so this is a 4. This can't be 4 here. This is 2 or 4 because of the 3, 6 pair in box 9, which eliminates 6 here. So this can no longer be 7, which forces this to be 3, which makes this 2, which makes this 7, which makes that an 8. This can't be 8, so this is 9, this is 8. 3 and 6 is only 3 is consecutive with 2. 6 can be consecutive with 5 or 7, but this can't be 1 here either way. Therefore, this must be a 1. This has to be a 1 here. This can't be 6 or 8, so this must be a 2. Which means none of these are 2. This can't be 8, so this is 6, which makes that an 8. This is 3 and 4. This is 2. 3, 4. So this is 8. This is Y has to be framed. So this is 1 and 7. So that's 8. This is at least 20, so it's 28 at least. This is 3 and 4. So K cannot be 15, so it can't be killer. 3, 4, 8. Cannot be 7. It could be 3, 4, 6. That adds up to 13, so that would be framed. It could be 3, 4, 9. Or it could be 3, 4. It cannot be 3, 4, 5. So 3, 4, 9 is, so it's 6 or 9. Okay, well this 8 means this cannot be 8. So this is 6, which makes that an 8. This 6 means this can't be 6. Therefore, this is a 9. And therefore, K is 1 away and is a suspect. None of these can be 9. What else do we have here? This can no longer be 9 here, so this is 7, which makes that a 9. The remaining digits here are 2, 3, 2, 5, and 6. So that adds up to 21. These can't be 6 because of the 2, 5 pair. We now know this has to be not 2 or 5, so this is 6. This can't be 2 or 5, so this has to be 7 because of the 2, 5 pair there. Therefore, this is 6, this is 3. This can't be 6. That's 3 in the corner. We celebrate because we know we're getting close to finishing. This must be 3. This must be 6. This can't be 1, so this must be 3. So this is 3, 4, and 7. 3, 4, and 7 add up to 14, which is framed. So T is framed. So this is 14 now, which means this has to decrease by 1, so it's 12. Whoops. So this is 1. This can't be 3 here. This is what? A 1 is in a 1 to 2 ratio with 2. Therefore, this can't be 2. This is 9, which makes that a 2. This can't be 2, so this must be 4. The remaining digit now is a 5 here. This must add up to 15 or less. 1 has to be here, so that works for any of them. So this cannot be 4 here. We now, because of the 4 in the row, we have a 2, 3, 2, 3 pair in row 7, which eliminates 2 and 3 in the rest of the row. Therefore, this must be 6, which makes that not 6, which is 8, which makes that not 8, which is 6. Y is 2 away from 1. 1 is 2 away from 3, so therefore Y is framed. Oops. Framed. And now I guess we just try to solve using Sudoku. Okay, so K is 349, which means it's a suspect. So we've got everything filled. This could be 1, 4, and 9. The rest of these digits are what? 5, 6, and 7? No, 5, 7, and 8. So this is already 20 by itself. So this could be whatever. This is 15 at most, so it could be whatever. This can't be 7. This can't be 8. Uh, uh, let's see. Hmm. 14. Hmm. Okay. What are the remaining digits in row 4? 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. So this can't be 7. And also 2, 4, 5, 7, 9 in row 5. Hmm. Well, this is exactly 14. Cannot be 9 here. It could be 3 here, I guess. Hmm. We do have 5 innocents, and we have 5 killers, right? We have 5 killers and 5 innocents. Again, to add up to 16 now, it could be 259. So this would be 252. Okay, this cannot be 259 then, because that would eliminate all possibilities for that cell if this was 259. So can 2 ever be in the 16 anymore? No, because it would have to be 259 or 268. Either way, this cannot be 2 then. So this cannot be 2, which means this has to contain a 2 here. Well, we have a 2 here. Where is a 2 in column 6? Can't be here anymore, so it must be here. So this is 2, which makes this a 1. This can no longer be 1, so therefore, where is the 1 in column 6? It has to be here. We need a 9 also in column 6 now, and none of the other cells can contain a 9 except for this one. So this must be a 9 here, which means this can't be a 9. And it adds up to 16. So it must be 3 and 4 then. So then this is 3, this is 4, which means this cannot be 3 or 4. We have a 2, 5, 2, 5 pair in row 4, which eliminates 2 and 5 in the rest of the row. This can't be 2 or 5, so this must be 7, which means this can't be 7. This can't be 7, so this is 4, which makes that a 7. This can't be 7. Where is the 7 in column 6? It has to be here. Also, this 3 means this can't be 3, so this is 5, which makes that a 3. This 3 means this can't be 3, so this is 2, which makes that 3. This 2 means this can't be 2, so this is 5, which makes that 2, which makes that 5, which makes that 2. The 4 here means this can't be 4, so this is 9, which makes that 4. This 9 means this can't be 9, so this is 8, which makes that 9, which makes this a 5, and that's an 8. And that's how you solve it. Congratulations on solving this case. The sheriff wants you back at their office. Will they offer you another promotion? Hopefully. This actually, I didn't feel like this was as quite as hard as actually as the previous one. Um, Maybe because it was hard to remember in the previous one which one was which with which cage, but having something to keep track of, essentially what was killer and what was not, and what could be killer or not, was much easier, I felt. Anyways, I didn't feel like this was very hard. It felt about the same difficulty as the previous puzzle. Still very cool, actually. I love the concept. I've done a lot of Killer Cage Sudoku, so maybe that's why it's not as difficult for me. Um, yeah, I mean, it felt pretty comparable to the previous one, which was Lost Village. I did like this tracking better. Um, Instead of trying to have to remember which cages were which, having the cages lettered out, which was nice, with the 26 people, I guess, was nice because it kept things separated, which instead of trying to keep things in your memory. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the solve, and I'll see you next time on Frank Puzzles. Take care.